It's the morning after the declaration of President-elect John Dramani Mahama. And so we understand how those sentiments can be shared. Right, so let's get to the conversation with Member of Parliament-elect for Ablekuma West, who managed to unseat Eslowusu. I'm talking about Reverend Kweku Addo, and he joins me in the studio this morning. Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning.
You're on the AM show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm fabulous. Congratulations on your victory.
Thank you. Thank you.
How does it feel? I remember when I asked you this question at the Constituency Collation Center, you said you were feeling very MP-ish.
Well, but as of now, I feel very tired.
Yeah.
But then inwardly, well, you realize there's more task ahead. And so the feeling is a little mixed. And also when you look at the overwhelming congratulations and support, then it makes you also begin to think in another way that one had never thought before.
Right.
But anyway, if you permit me,
yeah,
I can, but before we go on, I have to congratulate our incoming president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and all the other colleagues who have been able to win their seats clearly at this point. And then my constituency executives, three that I have to mention: my vice chairman, Alhaji Wela, my organizer, Charles Benning, my deputy woman organizer, Marie Addo, and all the other people. And then not to forget the clergy, my brothers and sisters who have stood with me all through this while. And then the entire people of Ablekuma West for the love that they've shown.
Right. And
I can't mention everybody, but then just to show my appreciation for the support.
Let's start there from Ablekuma West. What you've done was no easy feat. That was an NPP stronghold. In fact, one of the surprises that we got this election, and it wasn't just you, we can talk about Yawasu West, Wogon, and some other constituencies that flipped to the NDC side. So I just want to unravel who you are that was able to do this, and you're a Reverend Father. So how would you describe yourself to someone who didn't know you? Who is Reverend Kweku Addo?
You know, in 2020, I stood with her.
Yes.
I competed with her.
I think you came up with 45%, and she did 54%.
Yeah, thereabout. Yeah. You understand? And so I've been in the constituency, but, you know, we've always had the low key, because my view about leadership and politics is a little different. It's a human thing, so you're on the grounds more than... but, you know, generally, it's a competition for leadership. And in 2020, I would have said I was a novice. You know, so there are a lot of things I may not have understood. But I think given the opportunity the second time, those mistakes, we vow not to repeat them. You know, then aside that, you know, generally, there was this sense of the need for change. You know, so that played a factor. And then also because we had now found out, you know, what we needed to do and where her weakest points were. Do share.
What's the strategy there?
Oh, you know, the strategy was just to get to more people. You know, so then I started my house to house in January, you know, quietly.
Okay.
You know, with just 2, 3 people, 4 people just moving. So in August, when we came out publicly, people thought we were now starting. You know, that was when they also started leasing their booth, but we were quite ahead of them. And then there, you know, in every constituency, there are stakeholders that you need to engage and see where they stand with the elections. You know, so basically we did our homework right. And I must comment that NDC in general, with vigilance, even people were so vigilant that even some of our own people were even crushed, you know, because they didn't want any stone unturned. I remember I was in Christian home, and then whilst they were calling the numbers and doing the calculation, you know, the lady, their calculation meant were 6 votes over. And that was somebody standing behind me who said, "No, Reverend, there's 6 more votes." I'm saying, "Really?" He said, "Because this, and this, but when you take it, it's not supposed to be so." Later, we found those in her set of... So, and previously would have just allowed them to do the accounting. You know, I think at one point, but that one, I should say, the lady was tired. She was, I think, 28, 86, 90.
Right.
You know,
in fact, I was at the collation center when you stormed in. You remember? And it caused some altercation at the entrance to the military security personnel over there. I asked you about it already, and you said you didn't cause it. But what happened? I still don't understand what happened. You stormed in, and then something happened, and everyone just scattered all over the place. It was very chaotic.
No, what happens was that the excitement was too much for the constituents. Because when I was coming, we had finished collating our numbers, and we knew we were in clear lead. And so it was time for me to come. And so even entering, so we had to park the car, maneuver away. But then at the entry point, the security felt they needed to walk in with me. And then the police also thought I needed to go in alone.
Right.
So that was where the tussle came up.
Okay.
But then in the end, I mean, it was a little uncomforting, but then I think we got over it.
There you are on the screens. Right. So I need to ask, you're a Reverend Minister. What experience are you bringing to Parliament?
Oh, you know, I come from a real estate background, and then also as a proprietor for over 15 years, running a basic school. And beyond that, I mean, to go into education, had my communication diploma, you know, and all that. But being a Reverend Minister is what my office is for my service to God, you know. But talking about what we bring, I think there is diverse things that I personally bring, because when it comes to education, it comes to real estate, it comes to communication, I'm very well versed, you know. But the most important thing for the people of Ablekuma, where I've lived for almost all my entire life, that I've always been pushing for a change, you know, and a better environment for us. You know, Sunday after the declaration, we just took a short thank you tour, and you see people practically crying, Reverend, nyaba wawo, no nyeke nyaba fe, meaning like, please come and help us. Whatever you've promised to do, come and do it for us, because we are dying. You know, when you hear these things, it's not about politics, it's about the human life. In Dansoman, we've always talked about the high level of unemployment among the youth. We've talked about our drainage problems. We've talked about sanitation problems. We talk about our sea defense, which is in a very deplorable state. We've talked about little children not being in school, you know, and these are just community problems. Okay. You understand? Which I think we need to lobby hard, we need to legislate, so at least in the end, we can have a better Dansoman. Right.
I mean, not just Dansoman, the whole Ablekuma West.
Yes, I mean, but you know, the entire of Ablekuma West is Dansoman.
Well, hold for me briefly. My co-host, Benjamin Akakpo, is at Obra Sports. Yeah. I mean, it's the morning after the official declaration. We are gauging the mood of citizens. Benjamin Akakpo from Obra Sports, what's happening there? What can you report? Benjamin Akakpo is at Obra Sports, gauging the mood of citizens this morning. Benjamin, if you can hear me, what's the atmosphere there?
Station this morning. Yes, there's also a preacher doing his own thing there, but it's quite an atmosphere here. I'm going to be interacting with some of those here, those who actually work here, to tell us what they think about the elections so far, what happened, and what their expectations are of the new administration. I'll start with this gentleman who is right here. Pacho Bemi Wahakakra. Pacho, you're saying?
Me, I'm from Audu
You're saying?
Audu Rafiu.
Audu Rafiu. Yo, na abato na yakoto ye no. Who is saying?
Oh, abato no de ko ye. Nemum yara dampari police penino. Mi salutu no pa. Oya adwuma pa. Oya adwuma sana eye sanka mama betimi kura ko maintain no. Nanka on santena sanka ye pa. Any EC penino. Ono nso waya de. Efise we no oto ne buase e na obo ade no. Nti waya mistake dia. Enti omaya de. Omaya de.
Na abano nso ayeto ye no ayese yensusu ambo aban na ote so no nechi 1.7 million votes 1.67 million votes who dey say now we expect say na ebe
if say na ni yero na kire sa taxes no do dodo taxes no do etuo no do dodo eno nti na etutia no enti mama baba no ohwe no wanti tax no so no ohwe ye habon samsam. Well, otitas no so na fu eno brafo ma lord fe brafo ma bibia be ye boko na mom so no so Also continue say the omuye na. Onim say 4 years bebo. Oman no ye ni baby akọ. Ye ni ahine e woko. Nti wo hwe ne niam mba fom na oman no asundwe wo man no my da bia no.
Yo, kakrama me. So what he's been saying so far is that on the back of the elections for him, he would like to congratulate the IGP, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare. He says he did a yeoman's job, and that for him, if the Mahama administration retained him as the IGP, he would be happy. He says he wasn't surprised about the number of votes by which the MPP lost, and that taxes were one of the reasons they lost. I'm now going to find out from him, finally, what his expectations are of the incoming NDC administration. Inti NDC Kona as they say about one omedin kunimno. Omoba baimwa, then now person omoye.
The me person omoye and say, omo hwe ye tax nsemono. Ohone ye problem. Ye fu e ne boy din dodo. Yentimi ntofu e mfa nya ka adwuma yi. Na ukwa aboso kan se omo anim car pass. Ne boy din. It is a problem ni nyina agina taxes no. No yi taxes no every so. Na bibia mbra from. Na yentimi enjoy ye man. But me pani chopa say Dampare obetimi am maintain na. Ebe boy ye nyina.
Yeah, that's it, baby. That is Awudu Rafiu, who has been sharing his thoughts with us, and he insists on the IGP being retained. He also says that many of the taxes, as promised, ought to go. Let me speak to the next person in line. Please, what's your name? Obeka and Obeka Brofo. Yo, Potokas and Debio. Yo, but your friend saying?
What's your friend, Stephen Ando?
Now, what's what heavy?
Yes, Amasa.
Then now we are.
Oh, me a driver anywhere.
Yo. Now, about one I got to you, no saying.
Oh, about on there, in fact, said the normal is called the ABC that. Because said the NDC for records now, they didn't call Srona district regions NDC for G and ABC that. Yenti Bisada, and I just say, who say, normal Mampene, and I just say, Norman there. In fact, and Quay into Amagana for us to do one eye, the assessor margin, into Amadoana 2 tier Mampeno. Into your bompire said the enormous young Quay Mama 280 and Mampeno, a basis or Bashano de Bibia to Naquim. Maybe be I 101, send a bayer next 4 years and all. Obasanso attend a Kunyaso.
And so Stephen Ando is also a driver here. He is simply saying that things did not go well, and that manifested in the sort of votes that the NDC got in the last election, and that the incoming administration must do what the people expect to ensure that things are righted and that people get to enjoy the country economically and otherwise. Let me speak to this gentleman here. He also joins the conversation. But what are you saying?
Godfred Ako.
Godfred Ako. Now where they were?
Oh, me station chief driver. I was station here. Obla Sport. All
right, Godfred Ako is the station, the chief driver. Now, about one I told you and say, who say? I say, Obi Basi tsunami. Just say, baby, NDC. Now, who says I never go?
Na ye na nwene sa etimi asi nesi so anya wonwa e bi ze depend there was a system na ye na ye nya ne sa mfia MPP nten ti ne hia ma se change but ye hia so wura mahama wa bedi suda onim kwan onim se ne mamu ni tirada ti so wa bai ni wo so bitimi ye nwoma ma nwoma se sama ye ya ye ne beje ehu se ne ye hwe so o man no bitimi akonanim na nyi akonanim kama amaye.
Denti na odwe say MPP edi nkukuo poto se ne omudi ye no denti na odwe say sabai
me wonu say Ghana wo omumu didie bebre ebize yenim say owura je kufu abaye bipen ejina say ne omo ba no ne didie nyi de ta omati wo 2016 no emse say na nke be ko no ama oman no enyina no ye anya ne sa se ne ye pe no na ma ekukuo poto na timi aba ne sa bebre na timi anto aba ama feeling aba ne sa. Na Eja Kweku Addo, His Excellency, says here no nemre no etu etwa. Now dey important na wo de bekai no. Oh, mekai no what? Send you otimi si gina ya otimi gina na so timi de ye. Say Fred Kesu obeye otimi gina so ye. At least obi aponya 1122 CD ni banya 1 CD wo mu a wo ye. Wa ye ma yetimo so wo ye. Oye ti wotimi din na si form to wotimi ye bibi but na du baby na ve hu se enwoma bi wo ha futuo bi wo ha won timi ntie ma what media aka and one man at me but me can and them never can answer what me see na what me Emma what me afraid case my meet me but fine
it's another utumi ye OCNP
yes
yeah now so eduru baby no na so mabubu empraye gu omasum it will be bia omonte
mo de no nko na da om say bia no nko na mo de bo once for hene say bia what me aye no de bia da nkofo bet ne no nko na Ghana no ye hia nyoma bebre wo ma na aka chi but ntin sa gudu no no kura na ye ntim sa na be koso akọ na anim eno so obubu onua gu na so ma nyoma aye feel amaye sa
onua me da se bebre minim say wo ye adwuma. Basically what he's saying is there were certain conditions that led to the demise of the MPP or its gargantuan loss in the last elections. And he says that while free SHS was a good policy, there were certain things that were going awry, going wrong. And when you said it, no one would listen. That led to the capitulation of the MPP in the last election. He also says that the former president, Mahama, has been there before. And if he's returning, he should know that the expectations are high and that people want him to do the right thing to make us better. Let me move on to see whether I can get a few more people to...
That is Benjamin Akakpo there at Obra Sports, gauging the mood. And let's get back in the studio here with Reverend Kweku Addo. Rev, do you agree with what some of the citizens are saying? Yes, what would be your assessment of the IGP, the EC, in fact, the whole turnout for this election?
Well, I think the police service did what they were supposed to do. And that, in my constituency, I think they did well. With the EC, when you look at the general performance or the atmosphere, everywhere you went, MPP were clearly losing. So there was no need for anybody to even try to do anything untoward. You know, had it was close, then we could have really tested whether the IGP will stand the test of time or whether the EC, like the guy was saying.
Well, we did see military, even at your constituency, we saw military personnel come to the venue, the collation center, Mount Olivet.
Yes.
And citizens sacked them from the premises. I thought it was very wonderful to see that Ghanaian citizens were putting their lives on the line and said, the IGP said no military personnel would be allowed around these premises, so go away.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, power has always been with the people. If the people can realize that the power is with them, all the things that have gone on in the past wouldn't have gone on. You understand? And so, like I was saying, if the military are not supposed to be there, and we stand up for our rights, to say don't be there. And you know, for that particular one, I was at our collation center. We heard that apparently somebody who put in the call that I think there were some ballot boxes that were coming in or people. So they came to view or to see what was happening. And even with that, you saw the stampede. You know, so basically, I believe every citizen should do what they are supposed to do, whether it be a political party, whether it be any group of persons. Because once we do that, you know, and talking about the taxes, everything that has gone on during the corruption in the MPP government, is because we, the Ghanaian people, didn't stand up to them. You get a point. Because when you look at a situation where... Oh, yeah, I believe so. You know, where somebody, sanitation minister keeps so much money, and then in the end, the money is returned to her, and really nothing comes out of it. What do people think? Was
it a case of we citizens enabling or not standing up to the government, or it was rather the case of we weren't able to freely express or register our displeasure against some of the things that was happening?
Well, a little bit of both. Yeah. But, you know, towards the end of this period, you know, you could see more demonstrations and things because people were now beginning to voice out their opinions about the things that they were not too okay with. You understand? So I believe that somebody was asking, oh, Reverend, you say you are going to Parliament, this, that. You know, it's you, the people, that I'm supposed to go serve. If at any point I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, you need to question me. And you know, in Ablekuma West, that's why I keep telling them, I'm going to create the MPs Forum, that periodically we meet with the stakeholders. Then wherever I'm going wrong, you bring it to my attention. Why certain things are not being able to be legislated in their favor, you also explain to them. Then now you build a community or a nation where people understand the people who lead them. But when it feels like those leading are on one side and the people on the other side, then the sense of not being able to speak comes in. And then when you have an MPP government, that tends to crash anybody who tries to speak, then that becomes another issue. But I believe when you look at His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, over the years, his style of leadership, he listens. You understand? And I think that is a key, even to good leadership. You know, so I believe as we move forward, he's not going to change, and now he's rather going to come with more experience to enhance all that he's done before. Okay. My only prayer, that NDC, when we come to power, will do right.
Okay, I think that's the prayer of every Ghanaian. Yeah. So apart from this MPs forum, what are the new policies, initiatives? What's new that you're bringing to your constituency now? And I want you to say it on record so that if you don't do it, we can hold you to it.
You know, the MPs forum, it's the thing because people have always complained that they don't see their MP. You understand? And I've always advocated that.
Especially in that constituency. I heard so much reports.
And also I think even in Greater Accra, if possible, every MP it will be good if they live within the constituency. It gives you a first hand of what is going on. Beyond that, you know, the NDC policy has fallen into the things I've been telling them. When it comes to the National Skills Program, we are going to duplicate same in Ablekuma West. When it comes to the women empowerment, thank God NDC is bringing the National Women's Bank. Yeah. You know, when it comes to in Ablekuma West, we're looking at our community development, sanitation, you know, and in-house employment for the youth. You know, when you go to portions of our community, our sanitation is so bad that I believe we can train some of the youth to become sanitation guards for the communities. And the same with our security, where we don't have enough security forces. I mean, the youth can play neighborhood watch guards, and you know, all of them, we find a way to be able to give them some stipend from the municipal now, because we have the ability to be able to do that. You know, it's not the big things. You know, when you look at a place like Dansoman, I think from the municipal standpoint, we should be able to have an adult center. You understand? Where, you know, the adults in the community, because I've met people who were part of the group that developed Dansoman, that planned it. I've had, professors, engineers who are retired and they are still home. And it's not like, and I think we can engage them to be able to tap into their knowledge to build the community.
Right.
You know, so basically these are the, if you like, my 7 thematics were very simple, you know, but most of them, interestingly, became in line with what NDC wants to do. So then I realized that we have the right man to lead us moving forward.
Right. So 2 quick follow-ups on this. Yeah. How long have you been with the NDC, and what happens to your ministerial work now?
I was a sympathizer when I was in the US, and then from 2012, you know, we're all worried about getting into politics with our businesses.
There's some conflicts there, is there not?
About?
Being a minister, a reverend minister, and venturing into politics. There was no conflicting...
No, I think in the beginning, people kept asking. That was the foremost question I got everywhere I went. Oh, a reverend minister, why do you want to do politics?
Yeah.
You know, but I also know that the Bible clearly states, and even before this era, it was men of God filled with the Spirit of God who led the nation, because they needed to hear the voice of God for the people. You know, but modernization has come so much, but then still the word of God remains the same. It says, when the righteous lead, the people rejoice. When the wicked also rule, the people suffer. You know, so if there was anything, and that's what I've been admonishing my fellow clergy, you know, because in our congregations, we still have people who suffer the high rise in taxes, the unemployment, and we keep doing sharababababa for them. But then when we are in position to be able to speak, to legislate, and things get better for them, then the congregation and the folk, they also even get better lives to live. Yeah. And now serving God even becomes easier. You ask the pastors, now the offerings are not coming because the people don't have money. They don't have jobs, you understand? But then when we create an avenue where they are well employed, then they'll be able to give unto God.
So it's all connected, is it not?
Very much so.
Right. My final bid to you would be, going into this next administration, Ghanaians are expecting a lot, not just from members of parliament, but from, you know, the president-elect and so on and so forth. What do you think should be that unique selling proposition that this government, including yourself as members of parliament, newly elected, that this administration should do differently so that we don't boot you out the way we booted out the NPP?
I think, one, cut expenditure. Cut expenditure. Cut expenditure.
Is it possible?
It should be possible, because we will all understand that if we don't do that, and to be honest, we don't know how bad the situation is as of now. You know, the economic thing they talk about all is what is being said. But I'm sure once you come into administration and now you really start looking at the books, you have the time and the mandate to be able to do that, it may be worse than we are thinking.
Yeah.
And anytime there are difficulties, I think the first thing, that point of action is that you cut your expenses. And that's why His Excellency says he's going to cut down his ministers to about 60. You understand? Maybe some people may understand, but for some of us, we think that is the right way, you know, and then maybe, you know, any thing that is a waste during this period, I think should be cast. You understand? I keep telling my constituents, I wouldn't mind driving a Honda Pilot to Parliament, you understand, than driving a V8 and buy 2,000-3,000 fuel, where maybe 1,000 can do on a Honda Pilot or so.
You see, the problem I had, and this is just from my perspective,
yeah.
When you sit with people, regular individuals, you know, leaders even, it appears the diagnosis, there's no problem with diagnosing what the problem really is. And then they get into positions of power, and I see there's something on the seat that turns their minds around. You know, this conversation we're having about what we should do, cut waste and all that, it would not surprise many Ghanaians if in the next 4 years it turns out that you've done worse than the Akufo-Addo administration. What happens to them?
I pray not. I pray not. You know, anytime somebody has experience in doing something, definitely they may have learned something that they need to do new. You understand? And we know now with all that, the number of seats that NDC has accrued in Parliament, with an experienced president coming back, if we are not able to deliver, you understand? But the assurance or the thinking for me, for the Ghanaian people, is that they need to be patient with us. Definitely it's going to take a while to be able to figure out how bad the mess is. And then with that, we will all put in our bit to cut the cost and to do things in moderation, even in our constituencies and everywhere. Because when the young boys in Glefe tells me that, Reverend, the bed tax, let's remove it, let's remove the bed tax. And I said, when we come, we'll do that. When I have the position, I have to lobby for them to take it off. And they will be happy doing that, you understand?
Okay.
When we talk about our sea defense, that is destroying the entire Ablekuma West. And I'll have to be on my knees, do whatever it takes to lobby for it to get done. We've saved the township. And in that case, it will not be, somebody because of this sea defense may have lost their livelihood, a place of living, and their job. So once that is solved, at least they get a sense of relief. You get a point. So right. I think we'll all have to brighten our own corners. And I believe with the experience that His Excellency and his style of leadership, definitely it will turn out good.
Right. On the election day, I met Eslo when she came to vote. I think Mother Care also. And then I asked if she had seen the work you were doing and if she had concerns that you were, catching up to her. She said that you are unable to manage a school. What shows that you can manage a whole constituency? What's your argument? And that's my final bit to you. Oh, no, it's not an argument. I mean, she's... Or pitch. What really have you done? What can you show and tell us that I've done ABC or I am so and so, for which reason I can assure you that Ablekuma West constituency. No, let's focus on the school. It's in good hands. Let's focus on the school that she mentioned. Yes. You understand? When the entire Greater Accra, out of 600 and something schools for the BEC, because my school is a basic school, we are always in the top 50. So how worse can a school be? Top 50? Yes. The top 50. Wouldn't you have bragged more or better if it was top 10? No. When we're talking, yes, top 10 would have been better. Yeah. But then we are talking about big schools. Okay. You understand? And the good thing about us, our record is consistent. Children who come to Darin Christian School end up with good schools, A schools, you understand? And for me, that is the achievement. And maybe she didn't know. We don't intend to have big school. It was a home school that we built. But then going back to the community, I think the basic needs of the people realize that I'm able to do. I dug a borehole about 13, 14 years ago, which I've been serving the community. When you look at the number of students, I give over almost 60 to 100 scholarships a year. Okay. And not personal evolution, you understand? Right. So, but anyway, I called my queen mother called me this morning.
And then she congratulated me. Then it's like, that's the way you, ma'am, you know. We
have to go. We have to go. Right. This is Reverend Kweku Addo. Thank you so much for coming. I'll give you 30 seconds. Final words. Maybe you want to say something to your constituents.
Oh, no. Yes. You know, I really appreciate they believing in me to give me the nod. And like I've always told them, I'll be honest with them in my leadership. Everything I'll do, I'll make sure it's impactful for their community. And so that in the end, even when time will judge and say, or prosperity will say that a man came, Reverend Kweku Addo, and he did good for Ablekuma West. You come to Ablekuma West now, says, oh, when Fritz came, the high street was done and all that. And I want to do something that my children and the next generation will be proud of.
And that there is Reverend Kweku Addo, MP-Elect for Ablekuma West constituency, the gentleman that unseated, current member of parliament for the area, Esla Owusu, and Minister for Communications and Digitization. Thank you for joining us, and this is...